Welcome to the Temple of Surf, the podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to share something close to my heart. We just launched the Temple of Surf apparel line. T-shirt, hoodies, caps and more, all inspired by the spirit of surfing and the stories we celebrate here. And if you have little ones who love the ocean, don't miss out our children book series available now on Amazon. Fun adventure about surfing, friendship and the sea. By supporting the books and apparel, you're also supporting the podcast and helping us to keep the surf culture alive for future generations. Mahalo! Welcome back to the Temple of Surf, the podcast. Today's guest is Peter Iliff, acclaimed Hollywood screenwriter and director whose work has left a lasting mark on surf and film culture. Peter is best known as writer of Point Break, the cult classic that introduced a generation to the thrill, philosophy and mystique of surfing. Beyond that, he has written and directed films like Patriot Game, Varsity Blues and Rites of Passage, establishing himself as a versatile storyteller. In this episode, we dive into Peter's journey as a writer, how Point Break was born, and why his influences still resonate deeply in both cinema and surf culture more than 30 years later. We also talk about his creative process, his love for the ocean, and the story that he still wants to tell. This is more than a conversation about movie. It's about passion, creativity, and the timeless connection between surfing and storytelling. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode with Peter Iliff. Welcome, Mr. Peter. Welcome to the show. Where are you today?
I'm in Hollywood, California.
Yeah, nice. Well, today we're going to talk about your career. We're going to talk about Point Break, the movie, because we cannot not avoid not to talk about being the Temple of Surf, a surf podcast. And yes, so many things, so many questions that I prepared for you. But first of all, are you a surfer?
No, I'm not a surfer. When I was younger, I'm 6 feet tall, 6'4", and I was younger. I was just kind of a geek, and I grew into my body a little later. But I tell you, I am an athlete. I'm a great skier. I love stand-up paddleboarding, and I play a lot of pickleball.
Okay.
But I'm not a surfer, and it's always been very embarrassing because where I live, a lot of wealthy people, producers with their beachfront Malibu properties will invite me to their homes expecting me to be a great surfer. And they'll have, rooms full of wetsuits and pick your board and like, oh God, I'm so sorry. But, writers, what we do is we enter worlds as a writer, don't we? We enter a world and we get fascinated by the world we've entered, and somehow with Point Break, I was able to fool everybody that I knew something about surfing.
Well, it worked out pretty well.
But it wasn't really, it wasn't as much about surfing as it was about the attitudes of a character, Bodhi. And that was something that was very writerish and taken from a lot of conversations, a lot of people, a lot of like observations of philosophy. And, most of the surfers I met, because I grew up in Malibu, California, or not grew up, but my early years when I wrote this film I was living in Malibu, and there were just a lot of surfers, and they couldn't hold regular jobs. I mean, most of them were dealing drugs. They had to have a job where they could be free when the waves came up.
Yeah.
And so there's a long history in Malibu of the Murph the Surfs, these kind of criminals who, would be invited to the rich man's house party, and they'd steal the meat out of their freezer and the jackets out of their closet. And there's a lot of, just people who couldn't hold regular jobs. So this idea of surfers who rob banks to support their endless summer, which came from director Rick King, but it was just an idea that was really great. Great idea.
It's a fantastic idea. Looking back to it, it became like one of the most legendary movies.
So I was a very young writer breaking into the scene, and I had just gotten signed by an agency that was called Leading Artists, and they're now UTA. And what they do is they introduce you to, other people they represent. So as a writer, I was introduced to Rick King, who had just made a Donald Sutherland film and made a lot of really good films. Made a film called Hard Choices and a lot of awards. He's just a cool dude. We met, we became really close friends. We're close friends to this day. And he had this idea: surfers who rob banks to support their endless summer. Rick King helped me develop this script. We did 3 drafts, and he brought in producers Peter Abrams and Robert Levy of Tapestry Films, and they paid me $6,000. And I was a waiter at this time. I was waiting tables and writing scripts in LA on the side. And so they paid me this money, and they put me through 3 drafts, and then we sold it to Ridley Scott at Columbia Pictures, which was just a life-changing event for me. Changed my life forever. And for the first 6 months, Ridley Scott was directing this movie. Rick King was pushed off to be a producer, which pissed him off, and I don't blame him, but it's Ridley frickin' Scott, who's fresh off of Blade Runner and Alien. And then about 6 months into it, the studio changed hands. David Putnam left and Don Steele came in. Our executives left, and Ridley Scott went off to do a movie called Black Rain with Michael Douglas over at Paramount. And I mean, all the sets that were built, taken down. I remember they put all the surfboards they designed in the parking lot, and we were able to kind of grab a surfboard, which I still have to this day, of the original movie that was not made. And then it was 4 years later, a lot of close calls in between, but it was Larry Gordon at Fox, he had a new company called Largo, Larry Gordon Largo, and his first film would be Point Break. And he got Kathryn Bigelow, who was a very dynamic choice at that time, a woman to direct a man's film. All right. I mean, back then, this is the early 90s. But she was married to Jim Cameron, who was doing Post on the Abyss. And I have to confess, Jim Cameron did the final pass of the film, and he turbocharged it, as Jim does. No one writes action better than Jim. And a lot of thanks to Jim for making the film what it is. But these are my original characters, my original story, and very proud to have attracted such talented people to come in and make it what it was, because it's a team. It's not one person that does the stuff. And Kathryn directed a great film, and Keanu, I mean, I freaking love the dude, and Patrick Swayze. I think he won Sexiest Man Alive from People Magazine that year.
Oh, wow. Well, first, thank you for sharing all this story, which I guess not everyone knows. For sure, I didn't know there was like one first version and then stop and then restart again. And as well, crediting all the people that work with you. So you made you a surfer in the sense that not on the board, but surf is somehow connected with for all your lifetime with you. It's like you have always people talk about surf with you, or talking about Point Break with you, or talking about expecting maybe to see you as a surfer on the other side.
Yes.
But still, that you
yes, I can stand up paddleboard.
Okay.
Like being out there a lot.
Good.
Yeah, I stand up by SUP quite a bit, actually.
Oh, well, that's good. It's still very important. As long as we are connected with the water. We all surf, body surf, surf on a surfboard. There are many ways. So what I wanted to ask you is because I am fascinated by the job of a writer. How difficult it is to write a script for a movie, especially for something like, in the case of Point Break, something you are not connected with. Of course, you hear stories. These stories like kind of go into your mind and you create a bigger story. But it's difficult not to maybe to sound real or realistic, no?
Do you remember like when you were in school and they would say, write a book report about the Roman Empire or something, and you had to go live in the library for a few days and read all about it and immerse yourself in this world you didn't know? And I actually was fascinated by that kind of stuff, to enter these worlds and learn all about them. And so again, with Point Break, this idea of adrenaline junkies came up. And I myself have learned that I suffer from the disease of alcoholism. I'm a horrible alcoholic. I, thank God, have 21 years sober.
That's great.
And it's a much safer world for that. But in alcoholism, they say the ism is, I seek more. I've always sought more. I've always wanted to go faster. I've always wanted to go harder. When we were partying, I was the guy who wanted to go all night. Kind of crazy. I'm a lot of fun. And that translates directly to to athletes. It's these young kids you'll see who have to jump off the roof. Kids are doing crazy stunts on their skateboards. Just the daredevils. It's that I seek more, that ism, and often it leads to alcoholism. They're the ones at the bar at night who are drinking harder. They're doing more lines of blow. So I suffered from this, and it became really a natural thing. Even though I did not realize I was an alcoholic, I didn't really get bad until after I'd written this script, much years later. The success of Hollywood, I thought, let's party. But the point is, I was really interested in this ism. And so adrenaline junkies like Bodhi, who have to do it, and you see in his room pictures of him mountain climbing and just all these different on-the-edge sports. I'll take you to the edge and past it. That's been my whole life. You should see me on skis. Yeah.
Okay.
Go really fast on skis.
Okay.
And so it became a natural thing. And there was I was waiting tables, and I have to give credit to a man named Bodhi McCoy. He and I were waiters at this restaurant, and before your shift, you had to go in the kitchen and slice lemons. And Bodhi and I would talk about this script I was writing. And so it's funny. His name was Bodhi, spelled Bodiy, but I-E. But I took the correct spelling, and we talked about ideas like 100% pure adrenaline, about hesitation will make your worst fears come true, because it's absolutely freaking true. You hesitate, like if I'm on a ski slope and I hesitate on a drop in, I'm totally gonna nosedive. You can't hesitate. You got to just take it. And that's exactly what it's like on a wave. And so all these ideas became fascinating to me because I was living them in other ways. And so I think Bodhi really captures the imagination of a lot of us. And it's amazing how many letters I received. I mean, of how this movie changed people's lives. I'll get these letters, and it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, they're really sincere, and they're full of gratitude. And I am kind of humbled and overwhelmed that I do this thing because it's kind of a job, it's a passion, and yet this one movie has changed people's lives, and some people, and so that's beautiful.
It's absolutely powerful. And of course, once you can change people's life, it's like it brings you to another level, right? Because it's actually, as a human being, if we can do something like for other people, that definitely is great, And of course, I never wrote an essay on Roman Roman Empire. Maybe I'm Italian; they don't ask us to do Roman Empire essay.
In America. It's also interesting to me, you talk about surfing and energies, and it's all about, like, Buddy would say, follow the energy of the, be one with it. And I suppose if you're a great surfer, this is what you're doing. You're being one with the energy. And I'm just in a moment in my life now where we had tragically lost our daughter. She died this summer. And so I'm really into, at the moment, reading a lot about books on signs and the signs from those you've lost on the other side, trying to communicate to us. And so I'm kind of currently fascinated with looking for signs that my daughter might be trying to send to me, looking at, thinking about the energies of the universe. We're mass, we're energy, we're molecules. What happens to that when we pass? The way the other side might try to manipulate the mass and the energy on this side that we live in. And somehow that translates to waves to me, to be part of that ocean. And this killer show this year, White Lotus, the Buddhist monk talking about, we're just, we're from this body of water, and then we're the droplet that separates, and that's our life. And then when we die, we go back to the ocean. So there's such beautiful metaphors of the ocean and the energy of the ocean. And I would love to be good enough to be a surfer and to be one with that energy. And I'm trying to be more one with that energy in my personal life at the moment, so I can connect with Bella, my daughter.
I'm sorry for your loss. Actually, I didn't know. Tragic news. I'm sorry. My condolences. But yes, I don't know. From my perspective, I believe on what you said. I think there is like a connection that link us to something greater than we don't know. There are many signs, many stories of people that they find that connection in out earth, nature. Bring us back.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
form of a message or a sign or something, and then we have this energy that sooner or later will get back together, and then the different.
Well, it's interesting. Characters like Bodhi say it's not tragic to die at what you love, So his death is not really tragic. It was just the right time. That man could not sit in a cell.
Well,
jail cell.
I was speaking with Dennis Jarvis, the one that made the surfboard.
Dennis, no Dennis Wells. He's become a very good friend.
And he told me that Patrick Swayze called him, and a few months before he died, and he said, like, I'm working on the new Point Break because Bodhi in that way did not die. Because
that's right.
Correct. It was supposed to be a sequel from.
Yes, and I'm the one who wrote it. I wrote that sequel.
You wrote this one. Okay.
Yes.
And it's still. What will happen with that sequel? It's like.
What happened is, so I wrote it, and I was hired to write it, and I was going to direct the movie myself. And then Alcon got the rights, and then they decided, let's don't do this. Let's do a remake. And when you do a remake, you hire a new writer, and they hired Kurt Wimmer, who's an excellent writer. Some of my favorite films like Street Kings and whatnot. But Kurt completely screwed up this script, and as did the director, quite frankly, because they never connected to the essence of who Bodhi was. For example, Bodhi was, in the remake, they were killing police. Bodhi is not a killer. He's doing it. For him, when someone dies, it's a terrible blow to his soul. So they just got lost. And I remember the director bragging about how he'd never seen the original film.
Okay.
And so he wanted to make the remake of Point Break his own. And the film cost $120 million to make and made $20 million in the box office. It was an absolute disaster. And so a lot of us were very sad about that. But I had been asked to. It was really a joyful thing to like, okay, what would go on with this story? And the story that I created as a sequel, Bodhi did survive. That Bodhi, like a lot of these great surfers, they actually train to hold their breath, and they train by walking on the bottom of the ocean, holding a rock, so it weights them down, and they can practice holding their breath for minutes. And you probably know all about this more than I do. And so Bodhi was able to take the fall, get down, hold the breath, find that sea cave, and miraculously survive. And he's now in the Indonesia. And Indonesia has all these islands, and they're going through terrible environmental degradation because the Chinese are coming in and taking their timber, and they're taking their beaches. They're taking their sand. They literally come in with these big barges, and they scrape the beaches away so they can build new islands in Dubai and whatnot. So Bodhi didn't like this. And what they were doing is they were actually pirating the big freighter ships that come through the straits. So you had that adrenaline of them boarding a ship, never hurt anybody, but taking the money to further an environmental cause. And it was the new, we didn't expect to get Keanu Reeves back, but we had Swayze. So we had to invent another Johnny Utah. And this was Tommy Angel. and he was a guy who had come out of the military, out of the Navy, and he just went on a surf tour. He wanted to take his Medal of Honor and just surf, but he ended up punching out one of the judges at a surf contest who disqualified him off a wave. And then he gets sucked into the world of mercenaries and his old Navy chief. And it becomes the same sort of setup as these mercenaries are hired by wealthy men to track down these bandits, who turns out to be Bodhi. He gets closer and closer, and he starts to realize, I want to be on Bodhi's side. I don't want to be on the side I'm on. And so it became a story of the same story of which side of the badge are you on, but you're the same guy. I mean, the first one's Swayze and Keanu are like the same. They got that ism. They got the I seek more, but they're on different sides of a badge. And we recreated that. And it was a really great story. It had environmental themes and all the action and all the sex. But anyway, maybe one day we'll make that one. And I've written a TV pilot that's called Joni Utah. And it's about Johnny Utah's daughter, who, and her thing was snowboarding in the Olympics. And she nukes her leg in a giant wipeout and ends up joining the FBI. And when you first see her, she's going out to surf. And the joke is she can't surf worth a shit. But she's determined to learn. And again, it becomes something about the world of these. I'm really into these environmental themes, as I think a lot of surfers are. Yes. And there's a lot of money corporations who would like to rape our environment. I mean, we're seeing it in the Trump administration. All the protections of the environment are being worn away. So it stands to reason there are people who are going to attack these companies that pollute, and they would be considered criminals. Some might call them heroes. Yeah. And so if Joni Utah has to go undercover with these athletes, thrill seekers who, what do you call it, kind of pull rat fucks against these polluting corporations, these offenders, which side would she ultimately be on? Would she actually fall in love with the Bodhi type character who leads these guys and gals, or will she do her job? So it's, again, taking the themes of adrenaline seeking, of higher causes of spirituality, and in this case, the higher cause of our environment, to what will our law enforcement person do the right thing? And what is the right thing? To put them in jail or to let them go? Yeah. And what line do you cross when someone dies? That's a line that, you got to go down. People trusted you and they died. Your friend Bo Jesse Christopher is very much involved in that project. And as are the people at Platinum Dunes. So
he told me that he was working with you on some TV series, like super secret, but stay tuned. We will have some news. And we don't own the right. The rights of the Point Break universe are wholly owned by Alcon Entertainment. So we may have to change names, do it differently, but it's from the writer and it's kind of in the world. But I do not own the rights to Johnny Utah, because you're paid to write it and you sell it and then they own it, right? Okay, fine.
So
the way you describe, you might not own the Point Break, but you embody Point Break. You know what I mean? And then you don't call it Bodhi, maybe, or I don't know, legally.
Right. You can change names, and so we'll see. We'll see. Bo Jesse Christopher, who played Gromit in the original Point Break, he knows everybody. He came up running nightclubs after he became a movie star, and he knows everybody. Okay. And he's a very charming, very bright guy. I'm proud to call him a very close friend. And as is John Philbin. Exactly. Managed John real well. And I think all of us, all of us, except, I don't really know Keanu. I knew Patrick Swayze, and when I was writing the sequel, I spoke quite a bit, but it was tragic when he passed. Very tragic.
Hi, we'll get back to the conversation in just a moment, but I would like to remind you that the Temple of Surf is more than a podcast. We created an apparel line inspired by surf culture, from tees and hoodies to caps, so you can carry the spirit of the ocean wherever you go. And if you have kids, check out our surf-inspired children book series on Amazon, fun stories that bring the magic of the sea to life for young readers. By supporting these projects, you're helping us keep surf culture alive and growing. Now, let's get back to the show.
But in effect, so first of all, when Dennis Jarvis told me that there was a sequel, I couldn't sleep, let's say, for 2 days, because I was thinking like, oh my God, it's like Bodhi didn't die on that wave, and it would change life for a lot of people knowing that. And the second thing is that obviously having another Point Break movie that is a sequel of the first one and not like what they did, totally different.
Yeah.
And like with Bo Jesse, we were discussing about this in the interview. Is like it's very difficult to do a sequel of a movie that is as successful or as iconic or as original as the first one. We were commenting, for instance, about the new Gladiator movie, that follows the very successful one, and it's very difficult to match the same engagement that people have into when you do a sequel. And so, actually, for you as a writer, I guess it is a extremely important challenge, because you will kind of challenge yourself in making things better and stronger, without risking to becoming like just how do you call it, commercial, because you want to sell another movie. I think that's
it is tough. You can disappoint audiences if you stray too far from what they loved. But the attempt to keep the themes, to create, like again, the two brothers on the opposite sides of a badge. How can we do something different than bank robberies? You wouldn't want to repeat that, but you want them to be thieves, and you want it to be a high adrenaline. So if it's water, these guys are coming up on fast boats, and they're boarding a freighter going through this. There's a lot of the sea piracy out there, and it was our way of getting a new kind of action. And of course, in their private time, they're all surfers. And of course, our new character, Johnny Angel, sees someone sees a beautiful woman carrying a really great surfboard that's meant for big waves, and he follows her. He just sees this beautiful woman, and he follows her. And he's met her once before, but he follows her, and he follows her to the break. And holy cow. And he goes out there, and that's where he meets the sons of Patrick Swayze. He meets his sons. And so now Swayze, because it's been all these years, and now his sons, and Swayze's become the patriarch. And
stupid. How much do you think it cost to buy back a Point Break from the actual owner?
I don't know. I don't think it's in there. I don't think it's in the best interest. I know they have plans. There's talk that they have. They're developing a TV series, and God knows they may be developing their own sequel. I haven't spoken to them in a while. Right. And we had when I wrote this sequel. Sorry, when I wrote the TV pilot, Joni, Utah, they made every effort to get Keanu Reeves to come in, because there was a role for him, a smaller role, because we didn't want to dominate him. It could be as big or small as he had wanted, because he was the father. Okay. But this was before they filmed The Last Matrix, and before they had filmed John Wick 4. So Keanu had these two huge movies on his plate, and he declined. And so when we couldn't get Keanu to come on, and which was a real disappointment, because Bo Jesse has stayed very close to Keanu over the years. It kind of made the project fizzle. Fall apart. But that's the name of the game in getting these things made off. And can you get the star? In this case, everybody wants to see Keanu Reeves in some fashion come back.
Yeah,
as Johnny Utah.
Exactly. Yeah. But there is a lot of legendary stories about how kind Keanu Reeves is. And, maybe, one day, just to please the audience, he will decide to do a little part or a big part, whatever, and to do a movie that meant a lot. Anyway, like I was talking with Bojesi, and he was telling me that at that time, Keanu was not very sure if to continue his career as actor, and they were discussing this in, I don't know how to put it, in the camper van or whatever it was the actor place. And then past 1991 to today, is one of the most successful actor in the world. And so, if ever he has this podcast, please come back.
Well, there have been conversations between the people who represent Michael Bay and who direct Michael Bay and Keanu. So there is a keen interest on both sides to make something happen. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Both are very expensive, very busy men. But there have been conversations.
There are things like GoFundMe, where people are like, campaign, and then maybe, we reappropriate as a surface of the movie Point Break, and we live.
Let's go do it.
If like a million surfers will donate $10, maybe, I don't know how much it can cost, but nevertheless, I seek more. My Italian teacher in high school, he was telling me every word that finishes with ism has a negative meaning. And until today, I couldn't find a word, that finished with ism that is not negative, that has not a negative connotation, let's say.
Well, I suppose alcoholism is negative, but recovery from alcoholism is the most positive thing I've ever experienced.
Recovery doesn't finish with ism.
So now instead of drinking and drugging, I can go off and be an athlete and get it through, being physical, being alive.
No.
So I seek more is now under control.
Under control, exactly.
Using it the right way.
Maybe. And anyway, it's a challenge. If one day you think about a word that finishes with ism that is a positive connotation, please let me know. So I think my Italian teacher about the high school, maybe she's not there, but if she's there, I will probably go back to her and find with that word that she challenged me when I was a kid. I know from all the interviews that I've done with John or Dennis that the movie lasted, the recording of the movie lasted quite a lot, right? There was 9 months, I think, something like that, of shooting on the movie. And initially, I think it was much, much less. And then there was more budget, is what Jesse was telling me. And so there are a lot of scenes that have been wrote and then cut from the movie, or whatever you wrote has been shot and then published.
There's a scene I've never seen that I wrote that got shot. That it's the scene before they go skydiving for the first time. It's Patrick Swayze, Bodhi has surprised Utah after their foot chase. So they know who each other are now.
Yeah.
And Swayze picks him up that morning, and it's like Utah is trying to reach for his gun. They cut out the scene of them driving together out to the airstrip and the conversation that they had. And the conversation was something to the effect of, if I robbed a bank, this is how I'd do it. And there's a scene, and you see a scene in some of the trailers of Swayze firing a gun out the window of a truck and hitting a cactus. He talks about the gun he'd use. And it's a really interesting scene because neither is admitting they know exactly what's going on because they were just in a foot chase. Of course, Swayze had the Ronald Reagan mask on, and they're kind of continuing this farce. And it's a very interesting scene. It got cut out. The big one is they reshot the ending. The ending has always been that from all the scripts, from my first script, is that the samurai ending of that Johnny Utah finds Bodhi at Bell's Beach because he knew he'd served the 50-year storm. So originally it was more, since Bodhi really can't live with himself for people having trusted him and died, he goes quietly. He gets arrested. And they filmed that. And Larry Gordon, kind of wisely, I suppose, said, they got to have a fight. They got to fight, you know. And so many months later, the film was the ending scene was reshot. And what's really freaking cool about it is that Swayze had gone on to do a Roland Joffe film called City of Joy, where he plays a doctor. So he's cut his hair, so his hair like my length. And Keanu was going off to do Bill and Ted's 2. So his hair is now long. So it really shows this passage of time. And they kind of reversed looks. Swayze has short hair, the cop hair, and Keanu has long hair. It's just a matter of they've gone on to different movies. So they come back and they do the scene, they add that fight, which is a cool fight. And I always thought it was an interesting, it worked. You know, I mean, Bodhi will kind of go quietly, but not really. And then, you know, the idea of unhandcuff me, let me go die in the wave. And, you know, vaya con Dios, and, you know, he ain't coming back. It's great. It's a lot of the films I grew up with were about your cop character quitting. Dirty Harry, the original Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry. What's the last shot? He throws his badge. How about Steve McQueen in Bullet, one of the great movies? The last scene is that badge left on the, I think it's on a banister. He's just left there. He's done. This case has been too much. He wants a different life. So I love that about, you know, tossing the badge. He's out.
No, in a certain way, it was a badge of living life with us, and he went to surf his last wave.
Yeah. As Jim Cameron told me, and I was very grateful to get to know Jim when they were shooting this. He said, that's something I've never forgotten as a screenwriter. He said, steal from the best. It's a Jim Cameron line, steal from the best. And I think we all do it. You know, we look at the great films that have inspired us, and we steal what we can. Change the names, protect the innocent.
It's like a normal part of the human being. But in your opinion, what makes a character iconic? Because you're writing it, right? And then suddenly, for the people, for everyone, it becomes like iconic, like Bodhi. You know, what makes it? What makes this transition? You know,
We'll see. Obviously, if they have something very original to say, but most of all, if they're charismatic in their way of saying it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've created a character like Bodhi, who's sort of obvious to be a classic because he's so sexy and he says these cool things. But then I've written a film like Varsity Blues, where a fat guy named Billy Bob, who's got a pet pig named Bacon, you know, becomes iconic because he's just silly. You know, so there really are different ways to do it. It's just about, I think, finding originality and finding, I don't know, I mean, I could say warmth, but then you look at Gordon Gekko, Michael Douglas's performance on Wall Street. He ain't kind. He's iconic. You know, there's, you know, Robert Duvall, you know, in the Apocalypse Now, like, you know, I love the morning. It smells victory. It smells like napalm. Or no, napalm. And it smells like victory. Like, you know,
or what's for another?
you didn't miss in my business, man. You know, and all the scripts that I write that I think are great that don't get made. You know, I'm in a business where the privilege of my business is to every day I write. And but if you're a Hollywood screenwriter, if you're lucky if 3 out of 10 scripts are getting made, you just keep generating product, and you're getting paid to rewrite scripts. You're getting paid to, you know, to develop them from scratch. And oftentimes they just don't get made. But I have to enjoy the process of writing. And then when I can, I'm ahead financially to write my own. And then to try to sell them, set them up, and use the people I know in the business to package things. At this point in my career, I'm being asked to script doctor a lot. You know, I have a film called Turbulence coming out, directed by Claudio Fa, coming up very soon. It's a great thriller on a hot air balloon. And I've got the new, I'm an executive producer on that, which is a code word for rewriting the script. And then I've known Rennie Harlan, It's called Deepwater. It's a airliner crossing the Pacific goes down, and it's a survival movie. So and again, it's like guys like me. We work fast, we work well, and we might argue with you a little bit, but we to make sure you know what you're doing. But we'll give you what you want.
Okay.
And
It's a seal of quality.
and then I have a yeah, and my new one is called Breakaway Ray, which is with the NFL and Skydance. It's about the life story of NFL running back Ray Davis of the Buffalo Bills. And Ray Davis grew up in the foster care system, child protective services. His mother was a junkie. His father was in prison. And this life this man led, and he saw this young boy, and he saw a poster on a wall for Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. And he met this man who changed his life. And now he's a football star. So the NFL is all over this story, as are the Buffalo Bills and Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. The Gary Fleeter, who's the director of the Reacher TV series, will be directing it. So that's very exciting for us.
Aren't you afraid of the AI now? Because no?
I mean, yeah, it's going to change everything. I mean, I think Jim Cameron's Terminator is going to come true, and frankly, AI will become too intelligent and it will come after us. But for now, I'm finding people use it more as a book report. Like recently I was asked to develop the Buddy Holly, the musician, a story about Buddy Holly. And you can ask AI, like, if you're going to write a movie about Buddy Holly, what would you talk about? And it will give you a book report, a very nice book report, and you can adjust it, and it gives you ideas. So I think the trick for people like me is to try to successfully use AI to write faster, not to have it write for you, but to give you a bunch of ideas, because essentially we're just looking at the blank screen, right? And trying to figure out, ideas. And that's why I enjoy working with a filmmaker as I'm writing the script, because it's just more ideas coming at me and we can talk about it. We can make the right choice faster. So AI might help us with ideas to make the right choice faster. I do see what it's doing for the visual side, and young filmmakers without a lot of money are going to be able to generate incredible visual effects. And this is quite amazing. Just like now, the one I'm writing is it has some animals, like a pet dog and a pet rabbit. It's kind of, but before you'd be like, you don't want to have a dog or a freaking rabbit in your movies. You have to have a rabbit wrangler, and now I'm thinking you would just AI that. It's not a big deal. It's not expensive anymore. So in a way, you can say it's going to allow us to do things a lot more inexpensively.
I like that you see it as an ally and not as an enemy, at least so far on what you're saying.
We're going to do. We're living in a very strange world. I mean, I turn the news and I'm not happy with our president. I'm not happy with the direction of our democracy here in America. There's really very little good news going on. And it is a challenge to keep moving forward. It's a challenge to keep your smile. It's a challenge, and we have to find the ways to never give up hope, that we can all be kind to each other and do the right thing, so our children do have a planet, and their children as well, right?
Going back to, sorry if I used the AI question, but I was just curious, and I cannot stop myself to ask stuff, and I go off my personal script. But going back to a character that becomes iconic, like Bodhi one. The fact that people now, 1991, Point Break, so 2025, they come up with something like live like Bodhi. Or people write to you and they say, this movie changed my life or helped me. So, okay, Bodhi is iconic, Point Break is iconic. They do a lot of art, T-shirts, whatnot, related to Point Break, of course, along with other movie like Endless Summer or Big Wednesday. if we talk about the surf world, those are the three most iconic movie ever filmed, ever made, where everybody is making a reference to. And but the Bodhi became something else, something more powerful, something that changes the life of people. It's fantastic, isn't it?
I'm very grateful. Point Break's been very good to me. Just was it 2 weeks ago? They held they showed the film in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Bo Jesse might have talked about this. There was 5,000 people show up. You know, a lot of them dressed like Bodhi and Keanu, and you know, a lot of them were chanting the lines before they came on. So I'm just grateful. I don't think about it too much. I'm not the person who likes to have in my business. You can't listen to the compliments and you can't listen to the criticism, because you get a lot of criticism being a writer. You know, you're always being given notes. You know, this sucks. You got to do it better. And you don't want to be told you're great. You know, I mean, so it's kind of like you just learn to thank you and keep moving forward and write the next one. I hope my next one's iconic. But I am grateful for Bodhi, and it's all Patrick Swayze and Kathryn Bigelow really created something special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, you know, like Patrick Swayze, that he jumps off parachute in his private life, you know, allow him to be very realistic and real when he's.
Well, you know that when he jumped out of the plane, that was all one shot. Did you see that? Did you notice this? He's saying goodbye to Keanu. I know it's like acid in your mouth. And the camera's on him, and he literally rolls backward out of the plane. I mean, it was really a plane that they were really in the air, and he really rolled back. And that's a freaking actor, man. That's a stud. Keanu didn't jump. Keanu was on the ground on a big pole on a wind machine in visual effects. Not Swayze. Swayze jumped. Swayze set his line and jumped. That's one shot. That's a stud.
Yeah.
That's a total stud.
But then it's a little bit of everything, you know. It's a little bit of everything that made it so realistic, and so people connect. And then, and the phrases that you wrote, the statements that you wrote for him, you know, like the parts that you wrote for him are so like solid, one after the other. You know, it's like there is no mistake in the movie. I mean, from my perspective, you know, it's like and
so nice.
It's everybody. It becomes.
The surfers haven't fully rejected it, you know, from some guy who doesn't know jack shit about surfing. You know, I got away with it, so it's lovely. But then again, there are a lot of the Dennis Jarvises of the world who was very involved in the making. A lot of real surfers were brought in, and so there's just a nice vibe on the set. You know, John Philbin is one of the great surfers, isn't he? You know, he's been the one who, if you're a Hollywood star, you want to learn how to surf, you hire John Philbin to teach you how to surf. I mean, so a lot of real surfers were involved, and I think it just helped keep it from being silly, you know.
You know, I haven't seen it yet, but there is now on Apple TV is a TV series about Hawaii King.
Oh yeah. I have not seen it. I hear it's very bloody and very good.
And what I hear, you know, because of course, you know, there is a connection between Hawaii and surfers, of course, and that is very successful because, like, Hawaiian people, they relate. You know, I think I heard that it's shot in Hawaiian language, and also it's up, and so people are connecting with it, and it makes it successful because it's respected by the people that are portrayed in this case in the TV series. So I think there is a lot of respect for the surfers for Point Break. Like there is a lot of respect. We talk about John Philbin about North Shore, and I think you guys were able to crack this thing. And
Well, I know in that film, that TV series, Jason Momoa has lived in Kauai for most of his life. In fact, I've seen him over there. My sister owns a home right by the trailhead of the Nepali coast. And my son is there now hiking the coast. But we've seen Jason. My sister has been a friend of his. And so Jason must be really into this whole Hawaiian king mythology. And he must have grown up being a surfer, a big guy like that. Those Kauai boys, the water's a big part of their life, man.
And so the success is like in North Shore, another movie about surf, because you have a lot of surfers that are very legitimate, like, I don't know, Jerry Lopez, John or not, that are legitimate, and they give to the movie that extra mile, that extra gear, not extra mile, the rest versus other movies about surf, which is plenty that they just like not that successful. Last question, and I already took up time. What is the best praise that you wrote for this movie, Point Break? And what is the one that you would like to write now, 20, 30 years, 40 years after?
Well, I always love, 100% Pure Adrenaline. That was from the original script. All of Bodhi's lines, they were so cool. But what I do right now?
Yeah, looking at the movie, what would you like?
Well, I play a lot of pickles, so we say things like, "I want to body bag you." I play a lot of pickleball. Yeah, I don't know. It depends, obviously, what genre you're writing in. I don't always write, an action film with such extreme characters. It's fun to do it. Like I say, I just wrote one about a young boy growing up in poverty in the Tenderloin, so it becomes about survival on a different way. All I know is I myself do have that ism. I seek more. I'm a hard charger. I'm a guy who works out once or twice a day, hours a day, and that allows me to sit and be a writer. I'm always on the verge of exhaustion. And I just think that we need to keep moving. I'm in my mid 60s now. It's kind of like the key of staying young is just keep moving. So maybe that's what it is. It's something along those lines. I keep moving. And that's how we endure the hardships and the tragedies of our life. Having lost a daughter this summer, we keep moving, and we keep our hearts open, and we let ourselves cry, and we let ourselves laugh. We let people give us a hug when we need it. And I'm a big part of our world. We're animals. We've got lots of animals around me, and I'm good to my wife. I've been married to Ruth Ann for 36 years. I'd be nothing without my wife. I met my wife 3 weeks before I sold Point Break.
Wow.
3 weeks before I sold. And I was a waiter, and I think I'm going to sell the script, and everybody's going, "Don't date this guy. He's a waiter. He'll never amount to anything." And well, we fell in love, and I sold the script, and I'm the luckiest man in the world. So it's these kind of things that have kept me in the sunlight of the spirit. Also be able to put down drinking and drugs and just kind of find the natural highs, right? We find it by skiing really fast, jumping down a slope. I don't surf, but like I said, I ski. Or I'm on that pickleball court and I'm trying to body bag you. I'm moving my ass off trying to get that ball. These things keep me alive, keep me young, right? And I enjoy characters who embody those spirits, and the ones who don't are fascinating to me as characters because they start going, if you're not moving, depression, old age, it gets you. Keep moving, baby.
Mr. Peter, you've been very kind. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to talk to you very, very soon.
Thank you for the opportunity to chat with you today. All right. Keep up the good work.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Right.
Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!